All right, good morning, good evening, good night. Another Nifty Q show. I'm sitting here with my good friend Gifdead. I'm going to have a good interview with my man. He's going to talk everything NiftyCastle, everything Deebies, Witchy GF, RobBoss DAO, building in ETH. I mean, this guy's all over the place, man. He's just building everywhere, and I'm excited to talk with him. Gif, how you doing today, my man?
I'm great, man. I'm fully out of my 9 to 5 agency job. I'm full time
Let's
crypto art boy.
go.
Yeah, NFTs is all I do and all I think about and all I care about now. So couldn't be happier to be here with y'all, with the lads of LADZ City. And yeah, man, let's go. Happy Monday, GM. To,
GM.
to everybody out there, to any DBs, any witchy friends, any friends of the castle, GM to you, Nifty Q.
My
Let's
man.
go.
If you guys didn't know, we had GIF, and I have to say GIF because I usually say GIF like when I'm trying to say that. So if I mess that up, you're just gonna have to call me out. But I met GIF on the show actually when we had you guys on NFT Live a while ago, and at the time Buffalo like kind of outed you. He was like, "You're still working, but you're trying to get into NFTs," and like people from your work were listening. That was awesome. That was a great introductory into our relationship, man.
It was hilarious. It was hilarious. And shout out Buff. I haven't seen him lately. I miss him. But yeah, that was, I think, literally, y'all were so kind. Y'all were our first ever live NiftyCastle interview. So thank you to NFT Live, Ronan and Buff, you for having us on and, just believing in what we're building. And yeah, man, it was hilarious because at the time, and most of this last year, I've been side hustling,
Mm-hmm.
just building on the side while, trying to keep things going with the day job. And so at the time I was still very much still in that job. And yeah, Buff definitely kind of outed me there. Like, so yeah, so you're quitting, right? When are you quitting? Just like I was like, oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, but hey,
Hey,
here it is.
now you're here, man, and your journey has been awesome, and that's what we're going to kind of cover and what we're going to start with here in just a moment. I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor for today's episode, Society of the Hourglass. They're in the description if you guys want to give them a check. I'm actually going to drop the link there in the chat as well. They are launching 8,888 NFTs on January 4th. That is the mint date. They're bringing NFTs to Hollywood. They're doing all these types of things with bringing media into Web3. Really like what they're doing. They're doing a digiphysical book. It's super exciting stuff. We had them on the channel last week, so go give that episode a look too, and I'll drop this. But, GIF, without further ado, man, give us a little bit of that backstory. You touched a little bit how you were working before you got into NFTs. You were working full-time at another gig, of course. What has been your journey getting into the NFT space?
Yeah, what a journey it's been, right? I have been working in entertainment branding and marketing for the last, almost 10 years. And it's interesting, you just mentioned NFTs in Hollywood, with the sponsor. Um, I've been working in Hollywood, for all the biggest entertainment brands in the world. You could name almost any entertainment brand, and I've done some kind of marketing campaign or brand campaign or strategy or something for them, right? And so that's my background: entertainment branding and marketing. I grew up as a multidisciplinary artist, playing music, illustrating, painting, a lot of spray paint and graffiti art, so very, very heavily influenced by skate culture, street art. And yeah, I went through everything trying to find my path as a creative. And by being, I guess, a jack of many trades and being good at a lot of things, but not necessarily finding that one thing. Also, like, ADD, like, let's get real, like it's hard to keep my focus and attention on one thing. I want to do everything. So all of that different like experience touching all the different parts of the production process and of the creative process over the last 15 plus years, working in media, marketing, production, and just like all different kinds of studios and agencies, led me into a very unique position where I scale creative for large brands. And so for the last couple years, I've been working in influencer marketing at one of the biggest influencer agencies in the world, servicing large gaming publishers. So I found my niche and my specialty in gaming. First going, I went up to the Bay briefly to work at Electronic Arts, helping to launch their new games, running influencer and creative for their new games. And then came back to LA and was working on a lot of Ubisoft titles. So, all of that background in creative and doing all these different things put me in a good spot to just kind of understand the creative process and how to manage it, I guess. And so, yeah, man, I've had an incredible last few years, scaling marketing and influencer campaigns for all the biggest video game launches.
So I want to stop you there, man, because I'm super interested in the gaming space and you being at those big like conglomerates, those big entities. What is it like being in like the belly of the beast, creating within like those huge companies?
It's really cool, but it's also can be very frustrating, right, as a creative. So it's cool because you get to see how the sausage is made and you get to have some role and some part in these massive, massive campaigns and these massive creative initiatives, right? So it's like the things that you are touching and getting to work on and strategize and help build are going to be seen and interacted with by millions of people. And so it's like that, and that whole process is very, very cool. It's just awesome. Simultaneously, it can be very frustrating because there's so many stakeholders at play. Again, especially when you're talking about a company like Electronic Arts or Ubisoft or one of these massive AAA gaming publishers. They're public companies. They've got shareholders. They've got a giant company, a clear hierarchy, a bureaucracy internally. And so running creative through all of that, you can imagine can just be, kind of soul crushing as well at times. So it's simultaneously incredibly fulfilling and also incredibly frustrating.
So let's talk about how you got into NFTs. And I remember your first discussion when you were building NiftyCastle for the very first time. How did you get that light bulb moment in NFTs?
Yeah, so we started the NiftyCastle on Clubhouse in January of 2021. The idea was just like, let's start building a community of artists, supporting other artists that we love and that deserve, a platform. But the light bulb, the aha moment, if you will, was when I was figuring out and understanding the power of NFTs as a new creative medium and technology, specifically to empower artists and humanitarians and redistribute wealth into a more equitable paradigm for creative types, right? And like understanding that has a massive potential to change a lot of things. So it really came from understanding, okay, wow, royalties now, generational wealth, ownership over the manufacturing process and the distribution all in one without, no middlemen, all this stuff. I was just like, this is a game changer for artists, for creatives who are, again, largely humanitarians who care about big issues, who want to change the world and update, change the broken systems that we have. And yeah, so when I started to understand, like, it was kind of like, for me, what I'd been waiting for my whole life as a creative, part of the reason I went to school and grad school and was working at those big companies and doing corporate jobs was because I never found the avenue for myself as an artist to sustain a good living for myself, right? As a digital artist, digital creative, like that's been my whole life. I started doing Photoshop on one of the first versions in like second grade. You know what I mean? So basically my whole life, I've been a digital creative trying to figure out how do I make a living. There have not been the channels, the economies, there have not been those options really for digital creatives to really make a good living and capture more of their value, right? That's what NFTs do. They allow creators and artists to capture more of their value. And so that was the aha moment. That was just like, man, Whoa boy, my partner, I was like, homie, like, let's go. Let's just start building here.
Yeah.
And so we just started going. And the idea was we'll build a banner, a destination that bridges the metaverse and the real world. And we'll start developing projects underneath that so people can go experience the potential of NFTs as a new creative medium there. That was the idea. And we just started going.
Yeah, quick shout out to Pittsburgh too, because I believe that's where you and Woboy first got connected. But those early days, man, because you guys really, had a good timeline of getting into the space and then actually having the light bulb moment with NiftyCastle and what you wanted to build. But for people who just got in the last 6 months, it's hard to kind of talk about the Clubhouse. It's hard to talk about like what that energy was like back in January. Something weird was happening and everybody knew it. Something crazy was happening. Like, what was the energy from your perspective in those Clubhouse days, and how did you connect with the people that would eventually work with you at NiftyCastle?
Man, I'll talk about Clubhouse forever. You know what I mean? Because, yeah, Twitter Spaces is the new thing and it's popping off and a lot of the energy and attention is there, for good reason. There's a big opportunity with Twitter Spaces because it's a suite of tools that are all built in. It's got a bigger what do you want to call it, audience, whatever. There's a bigger platform that it's built into, so like I get that, but Clubhouse will always be like where my heart is, not just because the difference and the vibe and the actual like user interface and like the way that the stages curate, to me, a more sort of warm and inviting and inclusive space and experience, but Clubhouse was there at this very pivotal, formative, important moment in time, which is what you're referring to, right? And so there's this incredible confluence of events and things that are all happening at the same time. And Clubhouse was right there at the center of it, and such an important tool for all of us who were deprived of human connection, especially again, when you're talking about creatives and artists that need that inspiration, that interactivity, that dynamic, push and pull and like sharing of ideas. It really was this incredible new thing that was unlocked and opened up for us when we all needed it so much. And on, a lot of that was driven, of course, by the pandemic. Very, very similar, I like to think of the parallel between, the original Renaissance and the plague. I think it's remarkably similar, right? So we're now entering this digital Renaissance, that's driven again by this confluence of events. Some of it's technology, some of it's literally like nature and what's happening, like COVID. So the Renaissance, a lot of that outpouring of, intellectual desire and romantic energy and all that creative energy, a lot of that came out of the darkness and the dark ages and the plague, right? And so you can see a very clear parallel between that and the darkness and like that being shut away and, all these people dying tragically from COVID. And then this outpouring of just energy and wanting to build and collaborate and talk to each other and learn. And yeah, so especially in those first couple months, like late 2020, early 2021, Clubhouse was such an amazing space, man. And it literally was like, it was like the university experience condensed into just a couple months, right? So it's like, I went from 0 in January to like 1,000 in March, just like, all right, we are moving, we're building projects, we're doing collaborations, like we're working on our first big NFT, generative project that was Deebies. And so, yeah, man, the amount of value that I got from those interactions, the amount of friends, Nifty, Q, all of my friends that I hang out with now, this isn't a joke. Everybody I hang out with now, I met through Clubhouse.
Sheesh.
Everybody,
Yeah.
right? So it's just like, it's hard to put into words how much I love Clubhouse for what it's done for this community, for NiftyCastle, but yeah, man, just for all of my friends and people that I now am lucky enough to call my friends. And the reason why Clubhouse deserves a lot of credit is because a lot of it's due to the way it was built. Because if you remember, at first you needed an invite from a friend, and so it was very much, well, it was exclusive, but it was built through a social graph very strategically. And so that's part of why these connections and these relationships, once, like, now that we're meeting everybody in real life, it's like there's something real there. It's not just like, oh, who are these randos? It's like we've built these relationships and they have a foundation of similar interests and values. And so that's why, again, like, if you actually, want to deconstruct it all, like, I think Clubhouse deserves a lot of credit for being there at that time and having an incredible product.
Yeah, it all kind of converged at once in that timeline, man. And Clubhouse, shout out to them. Like, they really kind of captured the zeitgeist at the moment it was happening. Big shout out to the chat right now. Appreciate you guys following along. DJ Savage is saying, I'm in the OG Clubhouse gang, got my invite from Nifty Q himself. So that's a great example of exactly the connections we're talking about. But we'll move on past Clubhouse. Big shout out to Twitter Spaces, that's kind of carrying the torch now as well. It's a good medium for education that didn't exist for people that got into crypto when I got into crypto. It was not, you had to go on random ass forums. It was a bitch. And to have Clubhouse and to have Twitter Spaces now, the education is like exponential. So let's talk about Deebies. That was your first launch under that NiftyCastle brand. You mentioned like your whole ethos in founding NiftyCastle. So now we're at Deebies. How was that launch? How is it going since? What's going on with Deebies?
Yeah, man. So it's going really well. It's kind of amazing, what we're building organically. Again, like, we're very much like the epitome of a community driven project. We have no big backers. There's no Mark Cuban. There's no platform. I'm not speaking on behalf of anybody else other than, myself and our community. Right. And so, we had these first couple collaborations with artists that we loved, like Cake Nygaard and Ahmed Gaper, like people like that. And then we discovered Sketchnate, who is such a special talent. Like, I cannot emphasize enough what a creative genius, like, I think he is. I truly believe that. He came into one of our early NiftyCastle rooms. We were playing one of our games called Take the Throne. And, he's a really quiet, shy guy. He didn't talk much, but as soon as I kind of clicked into his Instagram and started checking out his art and reading, his captions and feeling his voice, I was just like, man, this dude is talented. Like, he's got it. Nobody knows it. So I just wanted to show him that I believed in him. I bought his Genesis piece, tried to be his friend. And then he pitched us this idea a couple weeks later called, Deebies. And at the time he had a couple traits. I think he had about 60 traits, and he thought, he's like, maybe I could make 100 of these characters or a couple hundred. And we were like, nah, man, this is bigger. Let's partner on this. And so over the course of about 4 months, we developed that project with him into what it is now, which is 3,053 cute as heck little demon babies that live on the Ethereum blockchain. They come from the planet Interrobang. There's 3 versions of every single character. So it's the first ever generative project where you actually get 3 NFTs for the price of 1, because there's 3,053 characters, but every single one has a Winky version and an X-ray skull version. And it's also the first generative project of its size that's entirely handmade. We made over 9,000 pieces of Deebies art manually, and we'll never do that again. It was a crazy thing to do, but I'm so happy that we did. And right now, you can still mint at NiftyCastle.io, but they're almost gone. We're at like 90% sold out, over 1,000 unique collectors. Again, entirely organically. So to me, it's like, that's the biggest accomplishment, is this community that we're building of, they're not just flippers. It's a bunch of artists and creators who really care about the Deebies, about the NiftyCastle and what we're building long-term. And so shout out to everybody in the castle, friends of the castle, in the Deebies community. Y'all are everything to us. So our goal is just to, sell that out and then keep building and driving as much value as we can back into the Deebies with everything that we create.
Yeah, you guys have done an awesome job, and we've touched on this multiple times in this interview already. But the NFT space has changed even from 6 months ago, and even from a year ago. And there are a lot more projects now. There's a lot more BS as well. And then within that, within this environment, you can still find teams like Deebies that are doing it the right way, that are doing it super organically, and it's just those are the projects where you're just going to see a long-term growth pattern, not investment advice, but a long-term growth pattern, just like this, up and up. It's not going to be this weird ass huge pump and then an absolute dump by Beanie and all these bigger influencers who get in and pump and dump. So I appreciate what you guys are doing, man, so much. One of the things that, right before the interview we were talking about is all the other projects that are going along with Deebies, which we'll touch on here in a second. But I just want to get your take on founding, this NFT project Deebies, and what the experience has been like from a founder's perspective, because there's a lot of people out there that want to build what you've been able to do. So what has that experience been like from a positive and negative standpoint?
Yeah, man. So much I want to touch on there, right? First, to your initial point, right? We are in this for the long term. We always have been from the jump. We've already been going at this, building for a year, and we're I literally just was able to get, out of my full-time job to dedicate to this. We are in this thing, and I think one of the interesting things to know, right? We are constantly looking for ways to give back to this community. We've given away almost 1,000 NFTs just in 2021. And that's not an exaggeration. Through all the promos, the projects and things that we're doing, we are constantly giving things away, including a lot of Deebies to, friends of the castle, people that, that support us, that come out to our events, that show up in the Discord. And I think it's really interesting what you talked about, that sort of long-term trajectory, right? Because as many of your audience already know, CryptoPunks, when they first launched, were being given away for free. And I think that that's something that maybe is overlooked by a lot of people, right? Yes. They don't. Yeah. So many people are very focused on short-term, which is, fair. It makes sense. But yeah, when you understand hey, CryptoPunks took 3 years before they really heated up, that's the kind of thing that we're trying to build, right? And I'm not saying we're going to be the next CryptoPunks. I'm not being blasé or whatever, but I'm thinking about that kind of long-term value, right? And how do we build a community there?
It's like a sticky user base almost. You're trying to create that sticky community.
Yeah, because when you mention other projects, and there's a lot of BS, and there's a lot of hype, and so there you see a lot of projects that will launch and they'll just go like this, and then a lot of them will just go back down like this, and many of those will never actually pick back up because there wasn't ever a real community there. It was all hype.
Truth.
Right? So unless you have a legitimate community, which we do, right? There's never going to be an actual user base, an actual collector base. People were just pumping and dumping. And so that's why you see, oh man, that's so awesome. But then a lot of people just get stuck with a bag. And so anyway, we're the antithesis of that. We're the opposite of that. We're the anti-hype. But man, to your second question, I've always been a big believer in just going out and doing and learning as you go. Right. So Deebies was our first big project. And that is to say, it's been a massive learning experience. Right. So we did a lot of things incredibly right. But there were plenty of things that we learned along the way that, if we had known, we probably would have done certain things differently. One of those things, right? And so I'm going to be totally transparent. I'm going to share some of the things that, we've learned along the way. Hopefully some of the audience, some of the people watching will take something away from this as they're building their own projects. One of the things that we learned is that you need to protect your metadata on a private server. If it's going to be a random mint and it doesn't sell out immediately, you need to make sure that you've got that figured out, right? Because one of the things that slowed us down initially was about not during the pre-sale or anything, because nothing's on IPFS, but when we first revealed, did the reveal part, there was about a 24 to 48 hour window. We figured out that there was somebody that figured out and it's not that difficult, right? But, again, we were learning at the time. Somebody figured out how they could go spy on the metadata and try and kind of snipe or cheat and like grab the rare Deebies before they came. So, within about 24 to 48 hours, we figured that out and we made a big announcement and we paused the contract for a couple of days and moved our metadata onto a private server so that, it's a random mint and nobody can kind of like cheat and see what it is, right? So that definitely killed some of our momentum because I think we were already like over 50% sold in the first, day or two, and it was moving really quickly. And then so that happened, and we had to shift course really quickly. But obviously, being transparent with the community, letting them know what happened, and just communicating clearly has really helped us just continue to grow and thrive beyond that. But that was a big like learning moment where we were just like, oh man, we didn't know that because we hadn't done a big project like this before. Another one is just protecting yourself and your ideas properly, and not sharing your IP or any of your proprietary information with anybody until you're protected in writing with MNDAs or contracts or agreements, because if anybody wants to hit me up offline, I will tell you, the whole story and about who it was, because it's somebody from the community. But we were basically extorted out of a fair amount of money by somebody who we trusted, who was a potential investor. They convinced us that they believed in Deebies and in our project. And so we shared some of our proprietary information before the launch with them. And we figured out that they were basically taking our information and doing other things with it. And so when they basically started trying to get us to sign over our IP rights to them, we were like, whoa, what's going on here? What? This is not okay. We realized there's a problem. And then it was kind of already too late because we'd already shared some things with them. And so they basically started threatening us that they would file like frivolous DMCAs against us to try and ruin our launch if we didn't pay them money. So like, this is the kind of stuff that is like real behind the scenes stuff that like happens in this space. Mm-hmm. So be very, very careful who you trust, who you share your information with, because when you're building something cool, everybody's going to want to be part of that. And you just got to make sure you protect yourself. Get a lawyer if you're going to be doing these big projects. And yeah, so that's another thing.
So real quick, we're going to have a conversation after this call, because I need to hear about this, but did you end up having to send this person money? Like, I guess, yeah, let's not have this on public call. I got you.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Let's continue to talk about like the other projects that you're building, because you've got Witchy GF, you've got RobBoss DAO, you're doing ArtStartNow, which I fucking love, by the way. Like, you guys are doing a great job on the network. But let's touch on like anything you want to lastly hit with Deebies. I know you guys have a hackathon that's about to come to fruition here, but let's touch on Deebies and then let's move on.
Yeah, man. So Deebies, again, like we're about to do a 24-hour room. So one of the things that we love to do, and this actually comes full circle back to the Clubhouse thing, right? Because at the beginning, when that was all like, everybody was so into that and so invested, we would stay up all night together. Like we would be up at 4 a.m. and people would be whispering like, so then you install your MetaMask wallet, and then you transfer your Ethereum to your MetaMask. It's like literally we were just learning and building together in that sort of like cool sleepover vibe. We wanted to bring that back. And so we did the first 24-hour hackathon, which is like a hackathon. But of course, Deebies are from the Fires of Heck on the Planet of Terror Bank. So everything's heck with the Deebies. But we did our first 24-hour hackathon on Clubhouse recently, and it was awesome. So we're doing our second one. It's a very merry Heckmas hackathon actually tomorrow, which is Tuesday. It'll start at 10 a.m. on Clubhouse in the NiftyCastle, and it's going to go for at least 24 hours. The last one went for about 25 or 26 hours, and we're going to be minting Deebies, sharing music, holiday vibes, and also doing, again, like a ton of giveaways. We got a bunch of friends. I think Shroombits is doing a giveaway in that room. Friendly Krueger is doing a giveaway. 5,000 Space Aliens, Hands Up, like Carrie Ross. We've got all these dope artists from the community and projects that are donating their NFTs to make this a dope experience. And so we're going to be doing a ton of giveaways in there. And yeah, so the goal is, again, we're going to be minting Deebies, and we're aiming to get it sold out by Christmas.
Very nice.
So hopefully it's a very Merry Heckmas for all of us.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, there's a bunch of utility with that project. I definitely recommend you check it out at NiftyCastle.io. There's still some right now pretty cheap on the secondary market because it isn't 100% sold out yet. So there's some paper hands on OpenSea if you want to go snag some there too, which I definitely recommend because Witchy GF, which you mentioned, is in development and aiming to launch in February. And Witchy GF is the expansion on the world of Deebies, on the world of Illustrator, Sketchnate, the creative genius, the creator of the Deebies. And there's going to be a ton of utilities for Deebies hodlers in the Witchy GF, right? So we're actually working on our own game. So, play to earn game, that's what we're aiming for. We're also aiming that all Witchy GFs are animated. So we're building out a whole pipeline of 6,666 incredible Witchy GFs. And that's actually the first time that we've shared like those details, I think, anywhere. I don't even think we said the amount, but yeah. So here you go. Exclusive for Q and the lads. It's going to be 6,666 Witchy GFs. Mint price is going to be 0.0666. And we're going to launch that in probably late February. We've got an actual launch date, TBD, to be named, to be said in the next week or two. And yeah, the Deebies are going to play a big role, and there's going to be a lot of utilities just for Deebies in that project as well. So yeah, man, you can check that out at NiftyCastle.io as well and get on the witch list now. That's the wait list, the early access. First early access wave is happening now at NiftyCastle.io/WGF for Witchy GF. Get on it. And yeah, man, I just love being here with you, bro. And I'm so excited to be doing ArtStartNow. And it's going to be a massive year, 2022.
Yeah, 2022. We said 2021 was the year of the NFT, but 22 is going to be like this awesome, I don't even know, like evolution. We're going to go from like Charmander to what I can't even remember the next
Charizard.
One. There's one in between. There's definitely one in between, but we'll say Charizard, evolve into Charizard for sure. NFTs in 2022. I got a couple questions about Witchy GF and would love to get the lads on that white list as well, that witch list, if you will. But real quick, man, I know you've probably said this like in public before, but what's with like the satanic like 0.0666 Witchy GF Deebies heck? What's
it's a great question. And I actually want to make a clear distinction because it's not satanic. It's not biblical or anything like that. It's demonic in a cute sort of like friendly, edgy, cool way, right? And I think that's just, it's a certain sort of style that I think, me especially in high school and college, I really love that sort of subcultural. It's about like subculture and art and like just wanting to create something that's maybe a little bit different or outside of like the normal structures of belief structures and institutions. Like let's go do something a little bit different and creative and maybe a little weird, what I mean? And so I think Sketchnate, a lot of his style, and again it's very inspired by like skateboarding culture too, and that sort of like subculture. I think, we just love that sort of artsy, edgy, like tattoos and, greasy kind of like artists, that's what Witchy GF is. And so, Witchy GF is actually very much focused on empowering female artists. And so we're actually very excited to be adding more women to the team. And we're going to be launching an all female artist initiative with Witchy GF as well, like an invitational where we actually promote an event and feature a bunch of female artists around the Witchy GF launch. And so, yeah, I think it's just, it's about having fun with maybe the unexpected, not what's normal in culture and society and kind of like poking fun. And like, it's kind of fun to offend people too a little bit, right? So some people get it, some people don't, and it's not for everybody.
No, I understand that. Yeah, there's like you said, an edge to it. It's not like your typical cartoon character PFP. It's got its own unique kind of vibe. So definitely love what you're doing with that. The last thing I will say about Deebies, I got some. We met in NFT NYC, of course, and I was able to get a T-shirt. You can see the skateboard right behind you as well. So there's like a lot of physical assets that you're doing as well, along with bring that bad boy up here. Love to see that, man. Hell yeah. Heck yeah. Heck yeah. I'm getting involved.
Heck yeah. Yeah, see, it's not hell, it's not biblical, right? We're just having fun with all these tropes. It's demonic because as humans, we don't have a better way to explain what these little creatures are from the planet Interrobang. But yeah, man,
Love it.
We were the first. So this is actually a one of one, right? So these are like, we created over 100 total unique one of one skateboard designs for Deebies collectors around the launch that have their Deebies on them. And also Deebies is the first ever NFT project to sponsor skaters, to have a skate team. So that's a whole other thing that we could get into as well. But yeah, man, the phygital aspect of everything is super exciting.
Digital, okay. I go digiphysical, but I like a little bit of phygital action going on here.
Yeah.
All right, so real quick, man, we do have I would say about 15 minutes left in this episode. I want to talk about RobBossDAO. If you guys didn't know, again, me and Gif met up in NFT NYC. We've been, collaborating for a little while, so it was dope to see him on the streets of NYC with Woboy. I didn't get a chance to see Lola, but I definitely want to meet her at the next event, of course. But we actually went to the Oni Force party, and I was outside, and I just didn't get the ticket. I all this bullshit was going on, and so Gif is there at the door with this chick who's trying to let people in, basically bouncing, and she's looking over at me. She's like, that guy's not getting in. And Gif is like, yo, you have to let my guy Nifty Q in. I eventually got in, and that was just a fun night all around. But just this focus on events, man. I want to get your take on the NFT space and events, and then RobBossDAO is an evolution of that.
Yeah. So first of all, that chick, her name is Taylor Starr, and she is amazing. Shout out Taylor Starr and the whole Ethereals fam, the Oni fam, and the Frogland fam. So yeah, so Booneyland, that was an incredible event that they threw together in NFT NYC, where we got to chill, and Ronan, and there's so many, we could go through a list. That was an amazing night. But yeah, Taylor Starr was the homie who got you in. Appreciate you. And
me too.
Yeah, man. So between NFT NYC and Art Basel Miami, I just realized that there's a massive opportunity at these destination NFT events. And what I've learned from watching my friends in the pizza DAO, right? Shout out Rare Pizzas, is that you can do really, really big things with DAOs if you have a very singular, simple, community-based need that you're trying to solve for, right? And so Rare Pizzas, I think, did this brilliantly, because they're just like, hey, pizza's great. Everybody loves pizza. Wouldn't it be awesome if pizza was free? And it's that's it. That's the concept of their entire project and the DAO. But with that, they've been able to feed people in 60 plus countries or something already. You know what I mean? So it's just having a very specific community-based need. I think DAOs can uniquely, help solve for those things right now. So I'm not a DAO expert. I'm quickly learning, but I've been paying attention over the last year. And that's my belief, is that if you have a very singular focus, they can be really powerful tools. And so for me, again, I realized that, okay, there's this circuit, this NFT circuit of events that started up, especially in the second half of 2021. And it appears to be speeding up and going international. And again, being at these events is a massive opportunity that not everybody can afford to be at. So, I'm blessed and lucky enough to have been able to go to NFT NYC and Art Basel and meet you and meet, you know, some of the lads and a bunch more of our friends from the NiftyCastle community in person. A lot of people can't afford, you know, to do that kind of destination travel and be at those important events where they get to make those meaningful connections. And so the RobBoss DAO started organically out of, you know, some of our chat channels in NFT NYC and then, you know, subsequently Miami. But yeah, it was just sharing alpha, sharing events, sharing lists, all of us trying to coordinate and hang out together around these events. I just said like, hey, we've already got this tight knit crew. Let's see if we can keep building this incredible community together and sponsor some of these events, sponsor some travel for deserving people and projects, right? So it's not just about indulgent partying. It's about how do we curate incredible spaces for creators that want to make positive change, right? Mm-hmm. How do we have a good time, but do it with a purpose? So the RobBoss DAO is something that we've been working on and we're getting ready to launch like in the next week. So it's going to be robboss.io. You can already follow RobBoss DAO on Twitter. We just got that going. And we've been working away in the background on our first DAO. It's partnered with the NiftyCastle, but it's its own thing, right? And so again, you know, we're going to be using that hopefully to in 2022 and beyond have a presence at, you know, a handful or more of these big destination NFT events, and hopefully create opportunities for awesome community projects and artists that we think deserve to be there and are doing really, really important work. So that's kind of the high level concept and how it came about, man. But yeah, that's the hope, is that we can continue to build on what we're doing and some of the good parts of this community through all those big opportunities and support projects that we think deserve it.
I love what you talked about early in this conversation with DAOs, which is let's have a singular purpose, and really what someone can get involved with now, because I've been on a few of these calls already, what someone can get involved with now is essentially networking with other creators at these events. So what do you guys, so with this launch, I know there is potentially a token as well. Like what could someone listening to right now that isn't familiar with RobBoss DAO, like what is the next step for them just to follow the Twitter and kind of follow these announcements?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Follow the Twitter, because that's the first place that we're going to be announcing. And then within the next couple of days, we're going to launch the, you know, temporary, you know, first website with the wait list, right? So you can get on the wait list for the access token, which is going to be something really dope that we're working on. You know, think kind of like an art block style generative dynamic art project. We can't, you know, I'm not going to share too many details just yet, but you'll see it very soon in the next couple of days on robboss.io. And yeah, so get on the wait list for the access token, because we're going to be launching that mint pass in January. Like we're moving really quick to get the initial mint pass and the access tokens out. So get on the wait list at robboss.io, follow RobBoss DAO on Twitter, and look out for that dropping this week. And then, yeah, look out for more updates coming on the access token and also the governance token, as you mentioned. So part of a DAO, you know, some of your audience may be familiar with what ENS domains have done, right? It's like by owning ENS domains, you then are able to claim ENS tokens, ENS coin, right? Their own cryptocurrency and governance token, which allows you to participate in the decision-making process of ENS domains and everything that they're building. So similar to that, we're going to have a lot of decision-making around events, around what kind of events, where we should be throwing events, who should be at those events, any type of budgetary initiatives and communities that like we should be supporting. Like you're going to be able to have input on that and say, hey, I think that these artists or these communities should be part of this, or, you know, at these events. And then also, you know, we'll be building out our own economy around the events and, you know, NFTs and merch and all these other things as well with that governance token. But yeah, man, we're currently aiming to have our first RobBoss DAO, you know, event in like April, May of next year. So we're already starting to plan towards that. So yeah, if we launch the Mint Pass in January, like get in on that, because starting in like April, May, there's going to be hopefully at least 3, 4, maybe 5 different events throughout 2022.
Man, I love this conversation. We could have a DAO convo for like the next 30 minutes and talk about how cool they are. But I just want to focus in on that quote that you just had earlier. Like I said, I just love it. Like it's basically, if you have a singular purpose and it's not so broad, you can use a DAO as a tool to coordinate from everywhere, right? So from if you're in Miami and another guy's in Cali, or another chick's in New York, you guys can coordinate around a singular purpose very easily, with all these really cool features that come with tokens and all these. It's just a bonkers conversation that we'll have to leave for another time, man. All right, anything else before we kind of jump out of here? I had one more question, and I want to open it up to the community and chat as well. If you guys have any questions for Gif, let me know. Did we miss anything, bro? You got like 2 whitelists going, you got Deebies going, you're just doing a bunch of shit. I don't know how you get it all done, but did we miss anything in this combo?
Man, I feel like we covered so much. No, I want to take a step back, and unless there's any, like, I'm happy to sit here and answer questions from the community, because like that's super important to me. So if there's any questions in the comments, I'd love to answer those. But otherwise, I'm just going to say, definitely get your DBs while you can, because they're going to sell out in the next week or two. And then we're going to keep building. We're going to do a billboard campaign in some major cities in the US. Like, we've got some other things. We got the skate team heating up. We got some big things cooking with Deebies. So those are at NiftyCastle.io as always. But I wanted to take a step back and like talk about one of your first sort of questions and points about getting involved. And you mentioned also, NFTs in Hollywood. And I think one of the cool things that I just found out last night, talking to a friend of mine in the space, who's his name's Living with Will, who a lot of people might know from Clubhouse and a lot of other things, Twitter Spaces. Now he's doing it big. But the first time that I got to meet any of these people off Clubhouse or any of these people from the NFT space was at a small gallery event in Hollywood on Melrose. And it was during the summer of 2021. And Living with Will put it on. He organized the whole thing. And it was this amazing, again, it was just a small gallery event, but it was this amazing time of everybody meeting people for the first time and coming together. And what he realized is that some other people pointed out is that was the first ever NFT gallery in Hollywood. So literally, we were all part of, a little piece of history there, being at that first ever NFT gallery in Hollywood with Living with Will and, Warhodl and JR and Camille and like all these amazing artists, Keith Botha, who just got married, who stole my Gabe Weiss skateboard on that day. But, now we're like best friends forever. But yeah, man, it's like that moment of meeting everybody for the first time and realizing that like, oh, these are like real friends. And like, this is a whole new thing that I really want to be part of. Yeah, man, I just wanted to call that out and shout out Living with Will for first ever NFT gallery event in Hollywood that brought so many of us together. Again, like these are now like some of my closest friends and people that I hang out with at all these amazing events.
We need to like immortalize all of those photos from that day, man, because that's like such a cool moment to have it there in Hollywood.
He has like the first episode of his show, like he captured it all. Like that's what he does. He's a documentarian and an entertainer and a media personality, and he's shooting all of this, man. And also, you know what? Actually, this reminds me, the most recent episode of ArtStartNow that just went live, he's in that. Yep. There's an intro segment that was produced beautifully by Lola Menthol. Y'all have to go check it out, because you'll see some of the behind the scenes of, our first ever brunch in Miami. Again, this was like a big inspiration for what RobBossDAO is all about. And so that intro segment, like the first 5 minutes or so of this, of the last episode of ArtStartNow with Faith Fetish as the artist, go watch that, man, because it's awesome. That's what Living with Will is all about. That's what Lola Menthol is all about, and the NiftyCastle and RobBoss and everything, man. You'll get the vibe. It's just good vibes, good food, good people, man. That's what it's about.
Yeah, this most recent episode of ArtStartNow, I just linked in the chat, so definitely check that out. I mean, I was vibing with the whole thing, man. Like, it's often tough because we're such a live-based network, but it's tough to like capture someone's attention in 2021 for a full hour, full like a 30-minute thing. Like, we're just so ADHD now, and I was glued to it the whole time, man. Because that starting off with that Art Basel recap was so sick, and you guys need to check that out for sure. So I am pretty much, I think we're almost wrapping up this conversation. I had one quick question. Gifdead, what does that come from? Like where is the name? I need the name origin right now.
Yeah, well, it's a pun on gifted, which, you know, some people get it, some people don't, and that's part of what's fun. It's like good art. It's open to interpretation, right? Like it could be GIF, it could be gifted, it could be whatever you want it to be, and I like that. That's part of what resonated with me, is that sort of built-in fun controversy. Is that some people say GIF, some people say GIF, but yeah, man, it came from me spending months alone in Redwood City in a tiny room trying to figure out who I was as a solo experimental artist. And so after months of like, because branding's hard. Again, I've been working in branding and marketing for a long time, and I've been in a bunch of bands, you know, doing music growing up. As you know, branding and creating something totally new, a new idea that nobody's come up with, is a very hard thing. Mm-hmm. And so when I was younger, because I was the, you know, weird creative ADD boy, I was put into gifted and talented classes. And so, you know, that's where I started to realize that I was like, oh, I'm over here like thinking, you know, a little bit different than some other people, and trying to focus on my creativity. And so that kind of through line of the gifted and talented, and then finding Gifdead and realizing that nobody had ever thought of it, because I searched everywhere. Nobody had it. Gifdead.com, gifdead.net, Instagram, Twitter, whatever it was, it didn't exist yet. And so I said, all right, that's me. And part of it too was, you know, 5 years ago, realizing that eventually our digital lives were gonna matter more, which is what, you know, I was right about that, right? We're now entering the metaverse, and you know, these monikers and these digital personas are becoming more and more valuable. So that real estate that I started, you know, building on back then is now something. And yeah. I'm so grateful and happy about that, man. And yeah, I just appreciate the question and the interest, bro.
Dude, that's a very sick clip that we just have for the last 2 minutes. That explanation of how things are changing and creating something that could be uniquely yours in this new environment, in this new metaverse, that is absolutely sick, man. And I think that's you mentioned like the parallels between the Renaissance and the plague earlier, talking about coronavirus leading to what we're kind of having now. That's the craziest thing to me that I think about maybe once a week, is like, what were we doing before all this? You know, like it's impossible to even recollect your life before what we're doing now. And it's a cool experience. I'm glad we're doing it together, man.
Yeah, dude. Man, I appreciate you so much. I appreciate the lads. Yo, shout out everybody that's been hanging out. Our vibe, our tribe, man. I am so incredibly thankful and excited to be part of what you're building with LADZ City, and helping to grow that in 2022, man. So yeah, thank you, dude. I'm so excited that I got to meet you.
Absolutely, man. Same to you. And we'll definitely log off here with these good vibes that we're feeling. Guys, appreciate you stopping by the Nifty Q show today. We had Gifdead. He was talking pretty much all of the projects he's building. I don't know how he has time in the day to do all of it, but if you want to catch him in like any of the Twitter spheres or Clubhouse or any type of thing, all in the description below. I'll link it there. Shout out to the Deebies. All right, guys, we are taking off. I'll see you next time.